What's on your radar, Kim?
Well, yesterday I attended and spoke at the Defeat the Mandates LA rally, where a crowd of thousands descended in front of City Hall in a showing of solidarity against COVID-19 mandates. Now, many of you might be thinking, COVID is over. People have moved on with their lives. We're now mask-free, going back to bars, restaurants, gyms, work. Everything is back to normal. So why would anyone, let alone thousands, attend an anti-mandate rally? What mandates? Although many of us have gone back to what seems like our regular lives, the reality is there are still quite a few significant mandates in place and more being proposed by various state legislatures. For example, you still can't enter the United States if you're not an American citizen and you're unvaccinated. Previous infection doesn't count like it does in Europe. This means millions of Europeans who've had COVID passports due to having recovered from COVID in countries like France cannot enter the United States unless they get the vaccine. On top of this, numerous vaccines that are being offered in other countries are not accepted in the U.S. The Cuban-made vaccine, which is being widely used in South America, doesn't count, nor does the Russian vaccine, which is nearly identical to AstraZeneca. This is keeping a number of families separated. Another mandate still around, over 1,000 colleges and universities require in-person students to be fully vaccinated against COVID, despite the fact young people have never been at risk of severe outcomes. The question then becomes, what do they consider to be fully vaccinated? Well, believe it or not, many universities are now requiring 3 doses, and some are even starting to require the 4th. Last Thursday, in a 2-to-1 vote, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals actually revived Biden's vaccine mandate for all federal executive branch employees. The appellate court ruled that the lower court didn't have the jurisdiction to put the stay on the mandate. The reason they upheld it had actually nothing to do with the actual mandate itself. They just ruled that the lower court didn't have the authority and that the employees challenging the mandate have to use proper legal channels set up for them. But regardless of this being a procedural hurdle, as of right now, the mandate is once again active. Now, what's even crazier is that on top of these existing mandates that don't seem to be going away, governments are actually trying to implement new ones. Here in California, where I live, there is a law being proposed that would require all California employees and contractors to be fully vaccinated. Every working man, woman, and child would have to be vaccinated or lose their job in the state of California. Ironically, retired people, the people most at risk of a severe COVID outcome, wouldn't even be subjected to this requirement. It makes no sense at all. Another bill would require the COVID-19 vaccine for all public and private school children, regardless of whether or not the vaccine gets full FDA approval, if you can believe it or not. On top of this, they actually want to lower the age of vaccine consent to 12, meaning kids can decide without parental consent or knowledge to get the vaccine. Another alarming bill being proposed in California includes the creation of a state immunization tracking system, giving government agencies access to everyone's vaccine records. State lawmakers also want to ban doctors from giving any other opinion on COVID than the state-sanctioned one, or else they face discipline by the medical board. And another bill takes a step further and actually proposes to ban any person or entity from saying anything the government deems to be untrue. Lastly, if you think law enforcement is going to look the other way, think again. Another proposed bill requires law enforcement to enforce these laws or lose their funding. So you can see we're still not out of the woods. Many people are still very much affected by vaccine mandates and other draconian measures, even though it's now fairly well known that the vaccine doesn't stop the spread. It doesn't seem to matter. It's no longer about science. It's clearly political. We can either move on with the next big distracting thing, or we can continue to voice our dismay and let them know we haven't forgotten. And that's what thousands of us did yesterday. So believe it or not, Robbie, and I know, now we know we're going to be talking about China and their very draconian lockdowns going on now. A lot of times that seems to sweep across the world. And now there's even indications coming from like Fauci and others here that, well, this fall, we don't really know what's going to happen, and we're not out of the woods, and we might be back to more mandates, mask wearing, social distancing, closures of things. I mean, when is this going to end? The fact that they're even proposing more legislation on this rather than backing down, and they're actually instead, and this is just the state of California, New York's got their own slew of restrictions that they're wanting, or mandates that they're wanting to put out there. So state by state, definitely the liberal states more so than the red states. But really, actually, one thing that I found interesting that I learned this weekend was that Mississippi, I believe Mississippi, I could be wrong, it might be Missouri, but both of them I think are red states, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they actually, their universities have the strictest of the mandates for college students getting the vaccine to go to university. So, I mean, what in the world are we doing? I mean, are the college students going to overwhelm the hospitals? I mean, I don't understand.
Well, the colleges have the most insane COVID policies of all, because I write a lot about college campuses. I get emails all the time from students, from professors, from liberals who say, you would not believe we're triple, quadruple, 8-tuple vaccinated, and also we still have to wear masks and socially distance. And, they say if there's a single case on campus, then we're going to be, it's
going back to remote.
Utterly insane.
So then it's just, why are they even mandating this for the students? I mean, why tell them they have to do it if they're still going to have to wear masks? They still end up having to do virtual schooling. I mean, they still can't hang out and do fun their college lives. Their years of college are just not the years of college you and I experienced. So,
at some point it feels like the authority figures, the people who impose these things, are just trying to erode the idea that we can resist tyranny. I know that sounds crazy. I get that most of them are well-meaning people who I think this is for our health, but we are equipped with so much science and so many figures and stats to say, actually, this doesn't help nearly as much as you claim it does, except, the vulnerable certainly should get vaccinated. I still think it should be their choice. But, all that aside, you're not really stemming these waves with the various proposals you're saying should be mandatory. And that's so clear. So at some point, it's just like, well, we're making you do it because we want to make you do things. We want you to realize you live in a society where we get to tell you what to do, even if it doesn't make a lot of sense.
That's a really, really interesting and good point. I'd be really curious to find out with these 1,000 universities, for example, what sort of funding are they getting and where do they get their funding that makes certain universities want to, what's the decision-making process that kind of gets them to this point? Who do they have on their boards that helps make these decisions? Because you're right. I mean, maybe they are, in a way, I hate to use the word grooming, because I know that's like the word that is like the trending word of the day.
I don't want to hear that word again. Everybody's a groomer. Everybody's a groomer. Ugh.
Right.
Well, it's the equivalent of everyone is a racist that the left uses now. Conservatives saying everyone who disagrees with us, groomer.
Is a groomer, right? But are they grooming these college students to be compliant and to say, don't question it, which is so strange. In universities and colleges, that's where you go to begin your questioning journey.
No, they are grooming them to be compliant. Yes, they're not grooming them to be sexually abused, which is the
but the groomer term, by the way, I've learned is not. I thought it was all just about like pedophilia when they were talking about groomers, but actually they mean grooming for anything. It's like you're grooming people towards compliance. You're grooming them for they use it more broadly, like when you talk to James Lindsay, for example. But I mean, just teaching them like, look, you're going to be the next generation of leaders in this country. You're going to be the next generation of our business owners, our CEOs, our leaders. And you need to learn that you just comply and you don't ask questions, and it doesn't matter if the science, don't think about that. This is just about compliance. That is a very scary thought. And then that's creating a society, by the way, which I think is even in a lot of ways more dangerous too. We're now hearing a lot of chatter about don't send your kids to school. Right. So a lot of people are saying homeschool your kids or don't send them off to university. And I don't know if every parent, I know I'm not an adequate teacher to teach my children. If I were to homeschool them, I don't think I would have the skill set. I don't remember algebra, so I'm not going to be able to do it.
Soon neither will any of the kids in California because they don't want to even teach them algebra actually, because what if some kids aren't as good at it as other kids?
And then there's that. So I guess we've got a big education problem moving forward, which is where are the kids going to learn? If a lot of people don't want to send their kids if kids don't want to go to college anymore because they don't want to be mandated to do things, if parents are going to pull their kids out of schools and homeschool them, where does this leave the future generation when it comes to their how educated they're going to be. I know now, look, there are plenty of people who educate their kids at home, and they're fantastic at it. One of my best friends does it. And she's a way better teacher than what she could send her kids to school in. Same thing with my uncle, who's a school teacher. When COVID hit, my nieces and nephews went and learned from him. They got excellent educations. That's not the case for most of the kids, though. And we know that. We know that most of the kids that got stuck at home did not get as good of educations. That's just a reality for a lot of them. So if we create a society like that, because we're mandating all these things, what are we going to be left with when we're in our elder years, Robbie? Who's going to be leading this country, and how smart are they going to be? And
well, that's many years away, Kim. So
I guess not. No, don't worry about it. Kick the can down the road. It'll be fine.
I was just telling our audience how young we are. That's really what I was.
Oh, right. That's right. Well, you anyway, at least for sure. But yeah, mandates are still there. We have to defeat the mandates. They're still very much with us. Do not stop and think, oh, no, it's all gone. It's all over. It just isn't, unfortunately.
No, it is not. It should be, but it's not.
Should be. Yeah. But anyway. All right, Robbie, I think we've got your radar. That's coming up next. Looking forward to it.